Hi everyone. Okay, so today we'll be talking about trigonometry. Just a note before we start. The purpose of this video is for all of the students out there to be able to learn on their own. And because we all learn at a different pace, with this video you'll be able to pause so that you can practice a question, you can rewind if you're not fully sure about a concept, and you can go back and hear it again, and you can watch it as many times as necessary, okay? Alright, so let's get started. Like we said, we are going to look into trigonometry today. And you might think that it's just like any other math topic that looks like a lot of planning, a lot of things on the board. But actually, you can see trigonometry in everyday life. And even in this cheese pie, alright? There is a triangle there, like you can see it. And there might even be a right angle just there. You can see triangles in everyday life, right? In buildings. And where else might you need it? You might need it if you're like Tom Cruise and you're at the top of a building and you want to have a rope that's long enough to help you go down that building safely. Or you might want to throw a rope up so you can get a coconut. I'm not sure if that's a coconut or not, but never mind, let's move on. Okay, so what are we going to do today? So we're going to look at the theory first. We are then going to practice identifying sides. We're going to work on memorizing primary trig ratios. Then we're going to look at, okay, how do we apply that knowledge and find trigonometric ratios? And then we're going to have an introduction to trigonometry part 2, which will be the video that will be coming out next. Okay, so let's start with the theory. First things first. I don't know if you remember this, but we might as well just say it again. When it comes to triangles, there is a fantastic relationship between the angles and sides of triangles. So what I mean by that is that you have angle C here. This angle is directly connected with this side. That's why it actually takes its name. It's also called C, but it's lowercase. And you see that angle B is connected with this side. That's its opposite. They're related. Okay? And with angle A, this is connected with side A as well. Okay? Which is why you're going to see in triangles a lot of times when you're looking at an angle that's the biggest angle, actually that angle will be opposite the longest side. Or the smallest angle will be opposite the shortest side. Okay? Okay, so now, when it comes to trigonometry, in the chapter that we're dealing with today, we are talking about right angle triangles. How do we know that it's a right angle triangle? It has that little square there, okay? Now, let's look at the sides, because we said they're related. We have 3 sides, and they have special names. First of all, let's talk about the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, okay? So it doesn't change. That's the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse of a triangle is always the longest side. Now, so that side is actually fixed, right? It doesn't change. However, when it comes to the other sides, okay, so let's say that we're talking about angle theta here. Like we said, angles are related to their opposite sides. So its opposite side is this one, which is why it's actually just called opposite, as you can see. And the side that is next to it is called adjacent. However, if we were talking about a different angle, okay, so if we were talking about this angle here, then its opposite would be the side that is now saying adjacent, right? And its adjacent would be the one that is currently saying opposite. So those two sides are not, they're not fixed. It depends on which angle we are talking about. Okay, so we are going to look into 3 primary trigonometric ratios, and those are sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, I want you to take a moment and I want you to copy this triangle with this formula down. So I want you to take a moment, I want you to pause this video, and I want you to copy it, including the diagram of the triangle including the right angle and angle theta. Okay, I'm assuming that you've paused and you've copied. So let's just move on to cosine. So this is the ratio for cosine. If you can please do the same, pause the video, copy the entire thing as well. And then last but not least, we've got tangent. So once more, please do the same. Copy the entire thing. Okay, so now if you notice, where it says tangent, in brackets it says tan. So that's the thing that you'll be able to find on your calculator. On your calculators, you will be able to find these guys here, the ones that are in brackets, sine, cos, and tan. But we will talk about the use of a calculator on our next video. Okay, so here they are, all of them together. Okay, so sine equals the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Cos equals cos of an angle equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and tangent of an angle equals the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. But let me just go back very quickly. I should have shown it for you guys from here, okay, because that's how we're going to be solving it. So that's angle theta, and for sine of theta, of that angle, remember it has to be specific to an angle, so it's the opposite angle over the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. With cos, we look at the angle that we are talking about, so that's theta. Cos or cosine is its ratio is adjacent, so it's the one that's next to it, over hypotenuse. There we go. Remember, hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. And tangent, we've got, it's the opposite of that angle over the adjacent. Okay. Alright. I'm gonna give you 1 minute, so I want you to try and look at it and try and memorize as much as you can. I know it might sound a bit strange, but just give it a go. Okay? Pause the video, try and memorize, and then come back. You don't have to really worry about it that much. Okay. Now, I'm assuming you paused it, you've come back, and it might have been a bit difficult to memorize it, which is why we have this neat trick. Okay? So it's called the so, ka, and toa. Some people just say so, some people just say ka, but I specifically try and emphasize the H at the end so that you remember that there's a third letter. So, ka, and toa. Alright, please write them down. Take a minute, pause this video, write it down, and moving on. So what are those things? Those things are an acronym, I suppose, that help us memorize our ratios. Let's see how. Okay, so the S, where you see there, stands for sine. The O stands for opposite, and the H stands for hypotenuse. And you can see that it's written in the order that we need it when applying the ratio. So you say it's sine, it's opposite first over hypotenuse. It's not H over O, because it's not the ratio is not sine equals to hypotenuse over opposite, but instead it's sine equals to opposite over hypotenuse. Hence we have SOH, or so. Okay? Take a minute, take that in, pause if you need to, let's move on. So, now we're dealing with ka. It's again an acronym, it has the same logic. You start with the trigonometric ratio that you're interested in. In this case, it's cos of an angle, and then cos of that angle equals its adjacent, A, over its hypotenuse, H. Alright, again in that order, it's CAH. Specifically, it's CAH. It's not CHA, no, it's CAH, okay? Be very sure that you memorize that order. That's why we have this acronym to help us out. You can pause again, write it down if you want to, take it in, and let's move on. Okay, TOA. Alright, So again, we've got tan of theta. We have the acronym TOA, which stands for tan of theta equals to opposite over adjacent. Again, it's TOA, not TAO. It's TOA. Alright? Take it in, write it down if you need to. Let's move on. Okay, so let's see what you remember. If you'd like, you can pause it. You can look at your ratios now. Try and memorize it now using the acronyms, which make life so much easier. And then you can come back, pause this video, and use this as an exercise to test what you remember so far. Don't be too hard on yourself, because by the end of this lesson, I'm sure that your knowledge will be far more than where you started. Okay? And that's how knowledge progresses. You can't expect to know everything or memorize everything in just, a minute. Okay, so try this out. Alright, let's move on. We are going to move on to identifying signs. Why is it important to identify signs? Here's the thing. When I grade a lot of my students, tests or assessments or whatever it is on trigonometry, what it comes down to with their mistakes, when you look back, it actually comes down to the fact that they haven't practiced identifying those sides. For example, they confuse the opposite side with the adjacent side or the hypotenuse side. And like we saw, the ratios are very specific. So if you don't actually write down those specific sides, then your entire working out will be affected. Okay, so it might look like child's play, but no, it's not. The reason why this step is taking place is so that your brain works on identifying those signs, so that eventually through practice it can start moving so much faster, so that when it comes to the real deal, when it comes to the actual test, you won't have a problem with dealing with those questions. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a few examples, then we are going to practice. There will be practice questions for you, and then there will be self-evaluation questions for you. Alright, so let's start. Okay, so we have this thing here. I want you to try and look at it. Like we said, our sides are always based on the angle that we're looking at, except the hypotenuse. Okay? Alright, so the hypotenuse, remember, it's always the one that is opposite the right angle. Okay, so here we have our side. This would be the hypotenuse. It's the one that is opposite the right angle. Okay, so that's the hypotenuse right there. That's an H. Okay, and then we said that the other two sides depend on where the angle is. So that's theta. Its opposite side is literally just the opposite, so that's why I symbolize it with O. And then the one next to it is its adjacent. Okay, it's the one that is next to theta. Alright, so let's check it out. Let's check the answers. So, the leg opposite to theta is side, like we saw here, it's XZ. Now, the leg adjacent to theta is XY. You can see it here, right? And the hypotenuse is the one that is opposite, always the right angle, and it's YZ or ZY. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so theta, we've got, by the way, you don't always have to answer a question in the way that it's presented. You might want to start the way that is easiest for you. That is why I'm always starting with the hypotenuse, so that at least you feel comfortable with that. Okay, the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. And theta, that's our theta there. Its opposite is this side here. And the one that's left and the one that's next to it would be the adjacent. Therefore, it means that the leg opposite to theta is VW. The leg adjacent to theta is UV. And the hypotenuse is UW. Okay, remember when you're answering a question, don't rush to give that answer, but instead try and work it out like we did with just drawing the lines to make our life easier. You don't have to write it, you might just want to just drag your finger along to figure it out. Okay, quick this one. I'm gonna go to the answers immediately. And so the leg opposite to theta is ST, because there you go, it's opposite, so it's this guy right here. And then the leg that is adjacent to theta is the one that is next to it, in such a way. Okay, so that would make RS our adjacent. And last but not least, we've got our hypotenuse. Why is it the hypotenuse? It's RT, and it is because, you can pause or you can just tell me, shout it out. It is because it's opposite the right angle. Alright, last one, very quickly, because now we actually have length, right? And this is what actually matters. You're going to have length usually when you're going to be dealing with answering questions. So, theta is our angle that we're interested in, as usual. Its opposite is 12, its adjacent is 35, and its hypotenuse is 37. I think this is the last example. Okay, so let's look at the answers. The length opposite theta is 8, right? There we go. Its adjacent is 15, and its hypotenuse is 17, because it's opposite the right angle. Alright, so here's what's going to happen. We're moving on to the next session. So this is your chance to practice. Yeah? So please pause this video, figure it out, write your answers, and when you press start again, play again, you're going to have the answers. Good luck. So the answers are there. Check yourself. If you made a mistake, try and figure it out, try and go back, drag your lines. Don't rush, okay? There's no reason to rush, okay? So the opposite, in case you got this wrong, is, remember, we drag from the tip usually, or the angle there, but that's the connection there. That's the opposite. The hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, and the one that is next to theta, CD, is the adjacent. Okay, you can do the same for question 2. Alright, let's move on. Again, pause this video, work it out on your own, and when you press play again, you're going to have the answers. Here they are. Pause again so that you can have a moment to check yourself. If you made a mistake, try and go back and see what's wrong. Okay, if there are still questions that this video does not answer, please do email me or the company in general. Someone will definitely answer. The email is at the end of this presentation, so, or at the beginning when we have the disclaimer, so please feel free to send an email through. And last question, pause again, try it out, and then come back. Here's the answer. Check yourself. If you made a mistake, don't worry about it. Just try and figure out what went wrong. Okay. So, now, you have an entire mini quiz. So, to sum this up, you see, we were doing this several times, and it's because your brain eventually will start working much faster when it comes to identifying. Okay, and it's very important that you can act fast, but be very accurate about your findings and your application of knowledge. So, here's this mini test for you guys. Pause the video, answer the entire thing, and at the end, you're going to have your answers so that you can self-evaluate yourself. Okay, so this one, we've got 5 questions. Each question has 3 parts, right? So 3 times 5 is 15. So your mini test is out of 15. Give it a go. And the answers are, if you don't want to see the answers, quickly pause, and here they come. pause it, check yourself, grade yourself, see where your mistakes were, go back, try again. If you have a problem with these, please, you can rewind the video, watch it again as many times as you need. For those of you who are okay, let's just move on. So, step 3, now that we've practiced identifying the signs, let's memorize the primary trigonometric ratios. And those ratios are the sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay? So, at this point, I'm going to bring back some of the slides that we had before, but the difference is that now you're really going to have to work on practicing memorizing these things. So you might even have to write the formulas down several times. However, remember, the easiest way that we said we can do this to memorize is just memorize those acronyms, which were SOC, CAC, and TOA. Alright, so this is the formal way of just looking at the trigonometric ratios. When you're going to move on at the next step to actually solving questions, you have to, with every question, write your formula first. If you want to get full marks, write it down, or at least write the acronym. That's the other reason why students don't get full points, because they're lazy in terms of just writing that acronym. Write it. At least will get you 1 or 2 points more, because there won't be a mistake with how you write things in regards to their order. Okay, so look at it, try and start memorizing it. Remember, we've got our acronym, so it's SOH, we've got CAH, and TOA. There it is. Write it down, pause whenever you need to. Here we have it again. It's SOH. Okay, SOH. Remember, write it down, memorize it. It's just SOH. Okay, let's go back. Let's rather go forward to the next one. We've got CAH. So it's CAH. It's cos of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Remember that order. And then tangent of an angle is opposite over adjacent. Remember, TOA. Tan equals to opposite over adjacent. Okay, so this is your time to pause the video, go practice memorizing it, and when you're sure you have it down, actually fill in that question. But this time you're going to have to do much better than the first time that I asked you to fill in the blanks. Okay? Alright, good luck. Okay, so you're back. The way to check yourself is you just go back to the formulas that you wrote down when you were practicing. Specifically, it would be this slide here. Okay. Alright, and step 4. This is the beginning of applying our knowledge in regards to part 1 of the trigonometry video. Okay. Finding primary trigonometric ratios. So let's start. We've got sine, cosine, and tangent. Alright, so when they ask you to find the 3 primary ratios, we're asking for, again, the sine of that angle, the cosine of that angle, and the tangent of that angle. Alright, so let's just do an example together. So we're asked to work on a specific angle. We've got angle R. If it's easier for you, you can just do a little angle thingy there. If you want, you might even say theta, but really it's just angle R. So let's start. So sine of R equals to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Remember, always write down your formula. Don't move on if you haven't done it. Okay, so which one is the opposite? We've got our opposite. It's look at it there. Is 12, and its hypotenuse is 15. Alright, you can then move on to simplifying this, okay, because that's not usually your last answer. That would be 4/5. If you divide both numbers, they have a common factor. If you divide them both by 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay, move on. So we've got cosine of R equals to, remember your formulas, always write it down. It's adjacent over hypotenuse. So we've got our adjacent, which one is it this time? Is it 15? No, it's not 15. Sometimes a lot of students actually confuse that because it looks like it's next to it, but the reason to make sure that we don't confuse it is we just look and see, is it the hypotenuse? Usually the hypotenuse is the easiest one to spot without making a mistake. So I'm just going to write that down as 15. And the other one, the adjacent, now that we're absolutely sure, it's 9. So the ratio is 9 out of 15. And if you simplify it, again, you can simplify by dividing them both by 3. So that will make 3/5. And last but not least, we've got tan of r equals to, remember, opposite, because it's toa, opposite over, oops, what did I do? There we go, sorry. Opposite over adjacent. Okay, so its opposite is, what is it? It's 12, and the adjacent is 9. And again, if we simplify this, it's going to be 4/3. Okay, so in the next videos I won't be showing you how you actually simplify them. I'm just going to give you the ratio as is, and then I'm just going to show you the answers at the end, but I won't make it specific as to why they were simplified, because I'm assuming that by this point, since you're dealing with trigonometric ratios, you know your timetables, you know how to divide, you know about common factors. If you have a problem with that, please do email me, and then we can perhaps make a video on simplifying fractions. Okay, so remember, in order for us to solve this, we had to remember that it's sok, kak, and toa, right? Okay, so there are your answers. Like we said, the simplified version will be there. So to sum this up, when they're asking you to find the 3 primary ratios of a specific angle, you have to find the sine of that angle, the cosine of that angle, and the tangent of that angle. And when you find them, because the way you do it is you just substitute really the signs. Just make sure that you substitute the right signs. Okay, we talked about how to do that now in this video. If you want to watch it again, go back and then simplify your answer by finding their common factors. Okay, let's look at this one right here. So the angle that we're working on is this one here. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. We want to find sine of A, and sine of A is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to write that there because I know a lot of students need that visual. Okay, so the opposite of A is 9 and the hypotenuse is 41. Like I said, at this point I won't be simplifying it. I'm going to show you the simplified answers at the end. Okay, and the thing that would help us remember how to do the ratio in the right order is the acronym. There we go. You might want to actually write that in the beginning. Okay, moving on. So we've got, oops, what's there? Got cos of A is adjacent over hypotenuse, and the adjacent is 40 and the hypotenuse is 41. And what helped us to remember this is this guy right here. It's best actually when you're trying to work this out that you just either have the formulas there with you, no, actually just write it all over again. Have it there with you, you can see it, but write the formulas again so that you can practice, and that also helps you memorize. Okay, you might want to actually start with just writing the acronyms because those are easiest to write. So in the next slide I'll start with that order instead. And last but not least, we've got tan of A equals to opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so the opposite is 9. Oops, I made a mistake. Sorry about that. is adjacent. Sorry, I looked at the board for a second. So it's 9 over, there we go. Okay, and you see, I was just looking at something else. I tried to multitask and I made a mistake, which is why just write the acronym. There's no way you're going to make a mistake if you follow the acronym first. Okay, so there we go. We're going to start, oops, the answers were not supposed to be there, but it's okay. Let me just see very quickly. Okay, the other one is fine. We're just going to do this together because the answer is already there. I apologize for that mistake. But actually, let's try it the way that was suggested just now in order to not make any mistakes. Like we said, write those acronyms first. You see, I made a mistake and I've solved these things several times, but it does happen when you're distracted, when you're anxious during a test. It's very easy to make a mistake, so just write them down. Okay, so we've got, we're dealing with angle F, there we go. So, sine of F, or if you want to write theta in it, like I said, I just put that visual in because it makes life easier for some students. Sine of F, let's look at our acronym, is opposite over hypotenuse. See, there's no way I'd make a mistake now because I just had the acronym next to me. Okay, so the opposite, we've got 5 and our hypotenuse is 13. Then, next one, we write the acronym first to avoid mistakes. So, cos of angle F equals to adjacent over hypotenuse. Our adjacent is 12 and our hypotenuse is 13. And last but not least, we've got TOA. Alright, so tan of F equals to opposite over adjacent. Okay, and our opposite is 5 and our adjacent is 12. There we go. Okay, so you see how this time it went smoother, no mistakes. Write the acronym, then based on the acronym write your formula, then substitute the sides with the right length. Okay, so this one you're going to have to do on your own. Pause this video, like we said, write the acronyms, your formula, then substitute the lengths, and then you can press play to see the answers. Here are the answers. Okay, if you made a mistake, it's okay, just go back and try and see what happened. Okay, usually it means you didn't write the acronym. Did you write the acronym? Did you write the formula? Did you write it correctly? It usually comes back to that. And then did you substitute the right length? Okay, did you identify the right sides? That's where your mistakes will be, if there are any. Again, let's do the same. Pause. And here are your answers. Again, if you made a mistake, go back. It's either you identified the wrong things, or you wrote the wrong formula, or you didn't even write the formula or the acronym. Write that acronym. Okay? Identify the right signs. Okay. I see some slides were swapped. This is a practice question. So again, let's just pause. And then this is your answer. You know the drill by now. If you made a mistake, what to do. Okay, so if you made a mistake with the previous ones, please go back, try and solve them again with a clearer mind, knowing what your mistakes were, and then we're going to move to self-evaluation. Okay, so I'm gonna pause this video. You're gonna do a few exercises at each time with the slide is presented. I apologize for the mumbling, it happens. Anyways, and once you're done, I'm gonna move on and you're gonna see what's coming next. There are your answers. This slide was out of 6 because there's 2 exercises, there's 3 ratios. Grade yourself, go back if you made a mistake. Next one, we're going to do the same thing, pause it. And there are the answers. If you got a mistake with the second question, is perhaps you might actually have the right answer, but you might not have the exact answer as you have it there because perhaps you haven't worked on surds. Maybe that's it. So let's just do that together just to be sure. So we're looking for angle. Okay, there we go. It's right there. I won't be showing you how to work surds out at this video. We can do that in another video. I'm just going to show you just so that you know that you use the right signs. So we've got so that's sine equals to sine of k equals to opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so its opposite is root 3 and then it's over root 7. If you got that, it's a great it's a great start. Okay, the other ones, when it comes to simplifying fractions that have a root underneath it, deals with surds. So we're gonna do it at another time. Okay, and then let's move on. We've got kaf, and that means cos of angle k equals to adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so our adjacent is 2 and our hypotenuse is root of 7. And last but not least, we've got TOA. So I shouldn't have actually put that there because it was just an acronym really. So tan of k equals to opposite over adjacent. So our opposite is root 3 and our adjacent is 2. There we go. Alright, moving on. Now, when you first start dealing with these kind of questions, you're not going to be asked, always at least, to find all 3 of the primary trigonometric ratios. So you might be asked to specifically find either sine of that angle, cosine, or tangent. Okay, so you can't depend on doing it in the same order. So what I mean by that, we've got sine, which means we are dealing with so, and sine of theta is always the opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, our theta, you see it there, its opposite is 8. The hypotenuse is the one that is opposite the right angle. Okay, so there we go. I want you to try this one out on your own. Sine of theta, do the same thing that we did before. And the answer would be 48 over 73. That would be the sine of theta, that's the ratio. They're asking you to find it in regards to ratios. Apologies, and you can assess yourself now. You will get 3 points for this question if you get it correct. Because I care about if you can pick the right ratio, the right formula, if you can apply the right things and simplify if you have to. Okay, if you pause it, and that's your answer right there. Let's move on to what happens when you're asked to find the cosine of a specific angle. Remember, our acronym is that right there, it's CAF. So, cos of theta equals to adjacent over hypotenuse, and our adjacent is 12 and our hypotenuse is 37. Remember, it's opposite the right angle, that's the hypotenuse, and the one that's next to it is the adjacent. Okay, I'm gonna let you give this a go. Pause the video. There's your answer. You got it wrong, you know what to do by now. I think I've grilled you quite enough. Okay, and again, this is your chance to self-evaluate whether or not you understand how to do cosine. Pause the video, it's out of 3. And that's your answer. Let's move on to tangent. Okay, our acronym for this is TOA. Oopsies. So tan of theta equals to opposite over adjacent. Its opposite is that right there. 5 over adjacent is the one that is next to it. Okay, there might be chances where you're tempted to say this one, but no, you know that is not 13 because 13 is opposite the right angle and this makes it the hypotenuse. So that's not what you need. You want the other side. Okay, so that's over 12. And you can try it now on your own as a practice question. Pause this video, give it a go. And that's your answer. Then, now that you've tried it out, you can self-evaluate. It's out of 3, pause it. And that's your answer. Okay, so we are reaching the end of our video. So we're just going to have a quick introduction to trigonometry part 2. What we will be doing in the next video, we will learn how to find a missing side. So you see you've got the angle, you've got one of the sides, and you want to find the missing side, or otherwise the height, depending on the question. Again, here you've got an angle, you've got one side, and you want to see how long that pond is. Okay, if you're there, you want to go over there, so you just want to build something to help you cross that river. And again, let me just see that. Okay, there we go again. So you've imagined that this blue little thingy is a ladder. You've got it on the wall. You know the angle, and you want to find the height of that wall, for example, at least up to that point. The same here. You're trying to find x. And then we're also going to learn how do you find out, how do you calculate the missing angle. So if you wanted to find, I don't know, this angle, that's the right angle, we've got it there. You might want to find different angles that are missing, okay? So this is it for now. I hope this was easy enough for you, understandable. Please go back and watch it again if you need to. There's no shame in it, really. We all learn at a different pace. And if you need further help, or you know someone that needs help with trigonometry, please forward this video to them. Or if you want to help someone else through education, please contact us at that email, and we're very happy to get in touch. All the best.